Okay, so this is my video on why I think when it comes to why don't people like trans people, and there's some of my reasons for it. Um, One of those is the delusional aspect. I can show, for example, let's see here. If, like, let's say, some man think that they can be pregnant, with a child, like that, for example. Um, the reason why that doesn't work is, because it's not bound in biology. That's one of the main reasons for it. Like, you can't actually give birth to a child if you're a man. Like, you don't have a womb. And there's also sort of this reason why turf exists too, because some of the main arguments for a counter trans movement is because they feel like they are actually threatened by, if people can identify as anything, then it kind of does feel like women's rights are kind of in a sort of in a threat in a sense, because if anyone can identify as anything in terms of gender and such, then women who don't care about that actually feel like they're under a threat. So yeah, that's one of the reasons for it. And then there's also sort of like this uh, sort of this idea that society should accept it, otherwise they are they kind of are seen as sort of like this sort of like hateful people or something. That's also the reason for it. Like, I think there's like lack of discussion or open discussions. I think it's more in the context to like this human rights movement, and it kind of does go all over the place. And um, yeah, in lots of sense, it's kind of like this feeling that they don't seem like they have sort of like focus on reality and more on identity, like sort of like role playing basically. So yeah, that's one of the reasons for it. And now it's number two, threat of others aspect. Um, Basically, what I mean by that is um, think about when you feel like some is a threat, like right, like nobody wants to pick on like a fat person most of the time. They feel usually sorry for them. But if there is someone in position of power, they say bad things about them. Like that's sort of what is threat aspect. Like like that's sort of like an argument. Uh, yeah, so there's like this part of it, under the psychology, like I think there are probably like lots of people in the 90s where homosexuality was more it wasn't really accepted back then. It was when the LGBT or LGBT, I don't know what it was called back then, but that was sort of when they kind of did rose more in terms of publicity of the society. If you look at the first South Park episode, it's literally about that, or it's not the first, but it does in the first season at least. So yeah, that's sort of like that. It's a threat of others aspect. That's also the one of the reasons for it. And number three, likability aspect. I guess I'm gonna try draw a happy person here. I'm gonna try this. Well, that's the best thing I can do, I guess. I don't know, something like that. Okay, so now now it looks like a scare actually. Okay, I'm gonna do it like that. So a likability aspect is it's kind of like very important for a person to relate to another is if they are likable. Like, I can mention a game that I thought was terrible. Um, the game called Tell Me Why on Xbox. That's a game. Basically, in the game, the main character is like a female to trans person, and that's cool and all, but they make the protagonist so unlikable because all it does is it whines all the time. It's just it's basically bottom line just annoying to listen to. Like it makes me not sympathize with the character at all. I think it actually made Sam more likable in that game, and he's like a traditionalist of anything. And yeah, so that's also the image problem is the likability aspect. How likable are you? I mean, you can say that people who are angry, autocrats or like when you think of like Ben Shapiro, who's like you probably think of that guy as the anti-trans. Okay, I'm not saying that guy is likable, but there's an image problem. There's a likability aspect, and that's also one of the things. But I'm not gonna like put people in like sort of a box and say that. But that's I think there's some maybe there's some lack of image role models is what I'm trying to say here. Um, I guess the closest thing was like this tragedy. Like I watched some movies from this called Boys Don't Cry from 1999. About the tragedy of I think it was Brandon Tiley, or I'm gonna look it up. Or nah, but it was called Brandon or something. But you can look it up if you look Boys Don't Cry 1999 movie. You could look up the real person behind it. But that person seemed likable. The only well, didn't seem likable. I mean, this is more me though, but I don't know, the friend in the picture looked kind of like a drug addict. I don't know, but I don't know. That's maybe real me, but it looked like the type of girl who is like stoned on the phones or something. Just looks kind of dead. I don't know. But the point is that the I mean, female to male trans, I mean, looked like a nice person. So when I read, what happened to that person, I mean, it's just sad. So that's, I mean, maybe it's a little bit a bad comparison here, but I'm trying to just think of likable people. So that's one of the thing. I think there's a lack of role models, and I think that's one of the reasons. And number four, projection aspect. Guess I'm just gonna draw a finger here. That's a bad finger. Okay, whatever. Something like that. It's a bad drawing. Whatever. Okay, so projection aspect. That means that okay, everyone who basically it's you kind of just assume the worst of someone. So like let's say this evil cis people. I'm never gonna say that, by the way. I'm never gonna call myself that because it sounds lame. Like I mean, if you just call me badass, that's how I identify that. Just kidding, but it sounds like sissy. So I don't care if it doesn't mean that. It just sounds lame and stupid. So if some people are gonna use that, or if there's like a majority, okay, fine. But I'm not never gonna use it. It sounds lame. So that's just my opinion on it. But projection aspect is you project you essentially project a problem onto another. Like if you're in misery, then okay, that person has to be at fault. Sometimes it can be true, in terms of human rights issues. But I guess it is different between whining and the actual problem. Like, for example, I do get that people who are in a bad mood can, be very unlikable. Like for example, let's say you're a massively obese person and you kind of just hate people or something. Yeah, I can see that. But at the same time, I think that there's people who just I don't know, they don't like it. I think so. That's just my opinion. Uh, And number five, a generalization aspect. This is when you think everybody are like this or that. It's kind of like a very black and white view of the world. Like you everyone is a homophobe, everyone's a transphobe, and I guess that's also the part that makes someone unlikable, and that's also a problem, I think, because like for example, let's take the whole identity politics, and that's sort of like this big thing in United States. Um, in some way, I can almost compare that to eugenics. Let's see here. Um, I guess I'm just gonna, I don't know, something like this. Everything is black and white. Um, and that's how you look at it. Like those are the good, evil. Like that's sort of like this generalization aspect. Um, and when I think of eugenics or apartheid, that's like this one the thing. Generalization is very dangerous because what happens is you put people like sort of in a box, and instead of pointing out the people who may be to blame, you kind of are just thinking of it like a cartoon, and that's a problem. So that's also one of the reasons I think. Let's see here, and then the hipster mentality, people who uh, different. That's a terrible handwriting, but there's like this feeling that okay, some people just do everything to be different, and that's very unlikable personality because it kind of does feel like you kind of think that you are better than others. And I'm not saying that you should be the same, because everyone has a different personality, and that's fine. But I think maybe the dangerous aspect is you kind of do something just to annoy some other person on purpose. I don't know, but that's one of those reasons. So this is some of the reasons why I may think some people have this sort of like this uh, problem with it. I'm not saying it's fine or anything. I do believe in human and civil rights. But I'm just trying to tear down some reasons for why I think so. Thank you for listening to this video, and bye.